Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz, Shauketaly.
And a very good morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And this morning we've got Mr. Chandra Jayaratne here, the former chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Faraz.
And thank you. Despite your challenging onset of flu, is it? You're here. I hope you're well medicated, Mr. Jayaratne. Now then, Mr. Jayaratne, I was going to ask you, what of the investment climate in terms of political instability and the looming threat that the past may come back?
Yeah, if you look at the last 3 years and 3 years before, what have an investor got to see as a big difference? Yes, some differences of apparent taking away of roadblocks and possibly disappearances and supposed to be actions of impunity connected with people being abducted. There is no much difference. Earlier they used to fix the figures to suit them. I don't know whether they are about to do that now, because they have recalled the growth figures after a day of publication, and saying that it was done in a hurry. But this is a familiar story, if you
Familiar,
remember,
yes, very familiar.
about how mistakes are made with critical figures which come out from people who know what it is. Look at the impunity of the young rich guys of then and young rich guys of tonight, these days, who don't let us sleep in the night with their racing cars down all our by roads of Colombo.
Taxes paid on the cars?
I don't know. I don't think so. But anyway, thirdly, let's look at the poor man's needs. His fertilizer. Industry is talking about why the fertilizer was not available in time. It has nothing to do with what they have written. It is because some collectors apparently were busy trying to put an auction, arrange an auction, or was managing an auction between the bidders as to who could pay the demanded intermediation or collection fee.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which was 3 times, in fact, they tell me that it was 3 times what they get as their intermediation cost was what was demanded out of them as the payment. Ultimately, yes, it's fixed, brought with lowering the quality. Announced is granular. What is bought is powdered, they say. So, what's the difference between then and now? Impunity of Alutkama to impunity of the actions of the inactions of the police and the law enforcement during the Teldenia to Akurana to Kandy.
Yeah.
The type of governance we see through the parliament, where people's wishes are not being looked after. State resources were then misused for pet projects and projects with the highest kickbacks and graft. Is it different today? Absolutely not. So what's the difference? In addition to it, at least there was political stability in that time. But now,
However, it was achieved is another thing.
Yeah, but that is also shaky. So do you believe that an investor would not consider the other spots that are available? Starting at the bottom, Myanmar, to Thailand, to Vietnam.
Now, Mr. Jayaratne, tell me this. We've heard now what you said, but when you look at it, do you think that Sri Lanka is on the cusp of greatness, that it has gilded prospects now, and that's the failure on the part of our legislature?
If you talk of Sri Lanka, sans those who are politicians and those who are not statesmen, who should be statesmen who are not. Sri Lanka is a place where it can be done because the resources here, the richness of our endowed resources of our land
and our location is,
and our people, if rightly empowered with skills and with the right guidance and leadership, are capable, because we can see that how they perform outside of this country.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, we have all sorts of flagship projects that are going on here, millions and millions worth of dollars of investment, and it is a credit to our corporates, our entrepreneurs, that they've been able to, in spite of all these palpitations going on, in spite of all that they've managed to persuade these people to bring their money in and start projects. But how much of that can we sustain?
Well, also, it's not only sustain. I think the biggest challenge for us is how can we bring the gap, savings gap that is there necessary. Essentially, we need about a minimum of 30% savings to GDP ratio. We have probably ending up from about 11 or 12%, going up to about 15, 18% now. The revenue's gone up. So we may have a saving of about 20%, but still there's a gap. Now that gap can be only met to develop the country in a way that the others in this region have gone in the recent past, is by doing the right things, which are expected to be done by statesmen. Unfortunately, we have been devoid, this country has been devoid of a leadership who are statesmen.
Very, very sad then.
It is sad, but it can be sadder if we go back to the era before 2015.
Does that mean that we have to, that's the price we pay? That we don't want to go back there, and therefore we have to tolerate all this, all the thievery and thuggery that's going on now?
No, I think there is an absolute requirement upon society to apply pressure, not only at an election, but even before the elections, calling upon people who do not do the right thing, whatever their rank in executive or in politics or in governance, telling them that they have not performed, name and shame them publicly, put pressure upon them, sit on the roads and protest where necessary for the sake of this country's future.
So what do you say when a minister doesn't perform?
Well, when the minister doesn't perform, let's go and leverage the media, leverage the people, and put a pressure by showing them that they are not performing. Let us take, for instance, we must, in doing this, we must not forget, and I think Sarath the Alvis, in a recent article talking about the possible changes of 2020, had a nice line which I'd like to read for the benefit of the readers. He says, our struggle against the forces of power, he's talking about the negative power in that article. So he's talking about our struggle against the forces of negative power, I'll add, is the struggle of memory of forgetting. Have we forgotten prior to 2015, 8th of January, what happened in this country? So let's not forget that. Let's keep that in the memory. On the backdrop of that memory, knowing where the country was going and where the country may be going now, put pressure upon the current people to perform in what they promised.
I think that the memory is what is driving the media, for example, the media interests, the civil society and so on, because they remember jolly well what happened in the past. And we were aware of the huge fancy projects and so on, and unnecessary sort of projects, all because, like you say, the guiding force may well have been how much the highest amount of commission that could have been made. But it is that knowledge that we have that drives our fear that we don't want to go back there. And that's why in here, when ministers are departing from process, that civil society and media are all highlighting these matters. But Mr. Jayaratne, what is actually happening? We had the foreign minister, the former foreign minister who was a finance minister. When he went to foreign, he took with him the National Lotteries Board. Now we are told that the minister of the highways was changed, but that the outgoing fellow may well be taking the Section 3 of the highway with him. Is it because the new minister, who was the minister before as well, Kabir Hashim, is he not good enough for this Central Expressway project?
Well, all these go to show two things. Firstly, that we as a society is allowing this to happen. And secondly, that these people who are doing it can do it and get away. Basically, let us accept that, let's take every project. Is there a proper prioritization before they invest? It doesn't mean now, what I fear too is an election coming close by, they will get themselves into like the February budget of 2015, where giveaways are given which people never want and which is all forgotten. And there will be no returns on that investments that was giveaways of 2015. They reduced the prices of petroleum products, but didn't introduce the pricing formula with it.
Exactly.
Now that, if somebody was seeing far, reduce the price with the introduction of a pricing formula.
Yeah.
So that you will not be booking losses outside of the budget in the SOEs and causing stresses on the budget and the external gap.
What about things like Sri Lankan Airlines? Just for heaven's sake, we keep dumping money into it, and obviously there are no foreign takers because they don't want the debt, right? And they don't want, perhaps more importantly than that, they perhaps don't want the top heaviness of Sri Lankan Airlines. Thanks to its politics and politicization, it employs far more people than a comparable carrier will do.
Yeah, I think it's all that is, all of what you said is manageable. I mean, in private sector, such risks are taken.
Why isn't it then the best option is to say that we're going to auction the license for Sri Lankan Airlines? Whoever wants it can get it. And I'm sure that there are enough corporates in this country who'll be able to run that.
There is many ways of skinning that cat. Yeah. It can be an auction, it can be many other ways.
Whatever.
But is there a determination and unity from what we see in the newspapers to what is being challenged by the Pilots Guild and the trade unions? There does not seem to be unity amongst the board. There doesn't seem to be a commitment in the board itself. The board seems to be run at the whims and fancies of A, B or C. So that's not an independent board for the first time. I thought this government came in saying that they are going to appoint independent boards. They were talking about the appointments to boards being equivalent of the Constitutional Council will be appointed. Where is that? So we have to get such things that was promised. In addition, I think we have to, as a civil society and people, we have to put pressure upon the delivery of justice for the impunities of actions and the frauds and the national assets which, if they have been taken away. That's one. Second,
pressure for justice and a level playing field. We'll discuss that straight after this break. Don't go away. After all, this is Newsline. Welcome back to Newsline, and thank you very much for all your SMSs. And I picked this one up. It says, are we not stuck between the devil and the deep blue sea? with no alternative. Is that about sums it all up, Mr. Jayaratne?
That's what it appears to be, but all that I think can still be changed. If we as society, the people, think of the goodness of tomorrow this country can have and the next generations.
That's what I mean. That future is gilded, isn't it? Well, what's wrong with our politicians? Why can't they?
We don't have statesmen. That's what I started by saying. There is nobody who is able to think beyond himself, his party, his cronies, and he's staying in power. That's the order of every decision is made on that order. Not what this gilded future, when can we deliver it, how can we do it? If they were such people, they would have pursued all the good things they said in their 2015 manifesto.
I want to ask you this. If they were so committed to finding out about the frauds of the past, how come they didn't appoint a commission to look into the pumping and dumping and the central bank matters about the bonds? Because that's what the Prime Minister told us in March. He said, I changed the system. I insisted the system should be changed because there was corruption in the past. So why didn't he appoint a commission then to look into that? Why wait until the presidential commission looking into the Mahendran time, and in there they say, oh well, we should have a look at the past as well. Why wait till 2 Supreme Court judges have to say that? Do you mean they didn't have the wherewithal to work that out?
With the greatest respect to those people, I do not take that particular position that the previously what happened was, I would say, not market-oriented, may not have been the right thing by the...
Yes, but why didn't they have it?
But there was no third party pocketing the benefits out of it.
I see.
The people would have lost because the market interests were not paid. There was a fixing of rates by the authorities the way they did it. But therefore the state as such gained and did not lose.
And no third party made any money.
No third party made any money, but people who were the beneficiaries could have got a higher level. But that could have also meant that the cost of living would have gone up, and then there would have been... So I think that's been misinterpreted. But what I'm talking about is there are other issues on which we can finalize. Now 3 years have gone. If properly managed, with a proper prosecution system, independently run, with efficiency, and even I would even today argue that these cases which are piled up before the Attorney General's department, as they call it, why don't we get private counsel?
Exactly.
Because the return that you can get of recovering the proceeds of crime will be more than 10 times of what you will spend on private counsel. So why aren't we doing that?
Doesn't it make you sad?
It makes the whole country sad, because their future is being saddened in the face of what we are seeing. Look at even our commitments to UPR, the Universal Periodic Review, which is taking place today. Now 2 or 3 days ago, the commission has started. We are going for today's conference, having granted 2 little things before, but obviously there is no commitment. There is no commitment to resolve the people's needs. Now they are talking now today that they are going to have a reparations office they are going to set up. Now for the last 2 years I have been saying, reparations are good, don't give the reparations in lump sums to these people, because they will lose the money quickly. Develop a good pension scheme or an annuity scheme which annuitizes that. Now 2 years have gone, they could have developed a scheme. Why? There is no commitment.
There's no leadership, really.
Absolutely. Let's take the constitutional reforms. There are essential constitutional reforms. I'm forgetting the national issue out. Today the ministers have power to direct their chief accounting officers, which is the secretaries. They have power to control them. Ministers should only be, by section 52, should have gone to what it was before 1972, where a minister can only give directions on policy.
But here we are having ministers having meetings with contractors inside the bidding process.
Absolutely so. So why don't we that, if there is any commitment by anybody sitting on either side of the thing, this week let them meet in Parliament, adopt a 100% of them should vote for the good governance. Those who are in, who want to come in, those who are out, who wants to step in, all of them together, change section 52 of the, and give the power to the executive and take the power of interference, control, and the wrongdoings that are made possible by the section 72. Take away the right of the ministers changing the secretaries. They were called permanent secretaries. You can hold them accountable. If this changes, I'm challenging in your talk today, if there's anybody who wants to come to power, if they want to show their genuineness, if there's anybody who's in their power today who's genuine, let them go to Parliament, take this one particular point of the Constitution and adopt it, and show that they are committed for the benefit of the people, and to take this country to the gilded future that you talked about.
Well, I think there is a gilded future. We have peace. The people have breathed a sigh of relief 8 years ago, and all they want is for opportunity Sri Lanka to manifest itself. Instead, we have people bending the rules, breaking the rules, caring tuppence about the rules, a significant and intense departure from process. On the one side, they write lovely letters saying, as a matter of policy, no unsolicited bids should be entertained. A week or two later, they do exactly the opposite. Then you have the central bank, 1 billion became 10 billion, you know, this is like a mantra now. Almost everybody knows the nuances of that. The Prime Minister says, oh well, you know, I insisted because there was fraud. Then you come read the Commission report and it says there's no evidence to say that there was anything wrong. What is all this absolute nonsense and tosh? Where is this commitment? The people, look at that map, Mr. Jayaratna, of the local government polls, which is treated as a referendum by the parties. Look at that. Some new outfit have come in there, and it's full of their votes for them. And what are we expected to do? Go back to pre-2015? Is that what now fate befalls us?
Yeah, but if you read today's papers, there are politicians who are advocating that the provincial council system would go back to PR. They are only looking at, as I said, first myself, then my party's supporters, my cronies, and thereafter anybody else.
Right.
Now, unless we change this, I don't blame them, I blame ourselves for all having let these guys get away. Why are we calling, first and foremost, why are we calling them honourable when they are not honourable?
Well, on that note, I have to agree with my colleague Bandhu Jayasekara, who steadfastly refuses to use the word honourable when he's referring to these people.
Neither do I. Neither do I call them sir, because
that's right. They do
not deserve it to be.
That's right.
I don't get up when they come, because they don't deserve to get up, be got up to.
That's
and
right.
I think it is, people must show name, shame, and show pressure, advocate. We can still turn this country round in the balance 3 years towards setting the foundation for that gilded future. If we do the things that we should do the constitutional reforms, pursue the commitments of the UPR with honesty, ensure rule of law. If any person with whatever position, if they can impeach a Chief Justice overnight, why can't they impeach anybody else who is not performing their duty under rule of law? Poverty, address poverty by focused actions. Every resource that is been taken from the ministry, there should be an accountability for that. The priority has been, before you put to a ego project, or for going overseas versus looking for the people's benefit must be a target.
Chandra, when you see things happen, like the National Lotteries Board is being taken along with you whenever you go, the Central Expressway, it's according to Austin Fernando, it's not signed yet. But when it comes, it comes. What is going on? This is not their personal fiefdom. They are merely, shouldn't they be merely the trustees of this? This is not a minister's private property to take with him.
I think we should all protest on these grounds. Every week, let us, if necessary, fix a date and time and meet and protest with the people around the country.
I think that's a jolly good idea.
That is the only way we can do. We mustn't forget the past. Our memories must be kept. We must know that the past was equally or even worse. We cannot go back to the past. We can't allow the present. We have to turn them round by applying public pressure, not only at elections, but every time. And I think the gilded future can yet be achieved in this country.
What about
we in society, media, the leaders take the right thinking of placing the nation and its people first?
But actually, well said actually, Mr. Jayaratne. What about the leadership of the, this leadership, this no confidence motion now? What's that? Is that another ploy?
Well, is it the leadership, is it the no confidence? For me, no confidence has to come from the party discipline. If there is internal party democracy, there is no need for no confidence motion. The democratic rights within the party will ensure the changes that are necessary. But to us, what is more important is the no confidence that we have in these people not behaving as statesmen, every one of them. So let us change that, because for us it's not a motion that is important, but this country's future.
Chandra Jayaratne, thank you ever so much for having come on Newsline. We appreciate your time and your effort, especially with your challenging flu on the make. But thank you nevertheless. And let's keep our hopes up, and let's many congratulations and good wishes from us and all our support for the good work that we know you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Faraz.
And that's the way it was on Newsline on the 19th of March 2018, Monday. Take care. God bless.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.